This is Out for One Sports, your podcast for all things Philly sports. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Out for One Sports podcast. I'm Tom.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're here with Mr. Kawhi Leonard.
We fun guy.
Where's tomorrow?
Fun guy, what's up, baby?
What it do, baby?
Yeah,
What it
you
do,
already
baby?
know. Yeah.
That ain't true! That's not true! So get your facts straight.
Sorry, guys. You know, just joking around. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, and it is still...
23rd.
It is... Oh, you know what? What am I saying? Did I say February 3rd? You know, COVID's just melting together.
Yep.
It's Tuesday, February 23rd, and it's still sloppy outside.
Yeah. There's a bunch of slush outside.
And it's just wet and sloppy and just... It won't stop snowing.
Didn't really realize I was going to 7-Eleven for a drink.
It's just nuts. Yeah. Anyway, it's certainly been a wild week in Philly sports, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Some big, I guess with how we think, some very upsetting news. You got Carson Wentz out, traded. Indianapolis Colts. It looks like the Colts were able to make a deal to bring in the coveted quarterback. It was a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional 2022 second-round pick. That looks like if Wentz can play 75% of the snaps, could be converted to a first-round pick, and or also a 70% of snaps plus making the playoffs. We will also get the first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I know me and you kind of argued about this last week. I thought about it since then, and it's like, I don't think I'm so much upset about the compensation as I'm just upset with the whole situation. I mean, the compensation, it's understandable at this point. It's just, with Howie trying to get, the reports of Howie trying to get like a Stafford-like deal, Stafford-like haul, and he just didn't do it or even come close to it for that matter. Yeah, it's just another thing he screwed up, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that's the compensation they're going to get. You got some uncertainty at quarterback, whether or not, he was going to be able to, get back to, his rightful form, possible MVP season back in 2017. But, at the same time, that's a big cap hit that a team will have to take on, considering that uncertainty. But, low risk, Indianapolis, I believe, are going to get, a very, very good quarterback. I just wish, they kept them. I mean, one of the big things that, kind of gets you emotional is, that, goodbye message you sent to everybody. It's a little difficult to, process that, what has happened to this team.
Yeah, I certainly shed a tear with that goodbye message, as well as Giovanni, one of Carson Wentz's biggest fans, that little boy crying his eyes out. That broke my heart. And then, also seeing him, the pictures of him FaceTiming with his new teammates, the text message and, smiling as he arrived in Indianapolis. It's like, God, it looks like, your ex-girlfriend meeting up with her new boyfriend and looking so damn happy. It's like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, wish him all the best. I'm not a hater. I certainly loved him, and I certainly, had his back, especially during the, the Nick Foles,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Situations, no matter what, I loved Nick Foles, but we knew this was Carson's team, but, now we know it's not. It's nobody's team. I mean, you have, Jalen Hurts, on the books here, whether or not, he could be trusted to take over the helm. What do you think? Are we going to be seeing another quarterback, here come
I
April?
certainly hope not, but knowing Howie, anything's possible. To answer your question, whose team is this? It's Howie's team, or it's Lurie's team. I don't think it's one player's team. My concern is they are going to bring in a quarterback and waste another pick. you used a second-round pick on Hurts. This wasn't a third or a fourth-round pick that you had to sub in. This was a second-round pick, so obviously there was something to it. So build around this guy, see what he can do with a full offseason, that knowing that he'll be the number one guy. Bring in some pieces around him. Bring some pieces around a quarterback finally. Bring in, Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith as the, receiver. And just let's see what this kid can do. Let's not waste picks.
Yeah, exactly. One end, I am a bit hesitant about Hurts. He showed some positives in the season, but in no way, shape, or form did he show that he could be the guy. I personally think that pick was a waste. I think if that if that didn't happen, Wentz would still be on this team. He'd feel like a leader. He'd feel like the guy. But instead, this team continuously made him not feel like the guy.
Yeah,
in reality, with this season, you couldn't do anything behind that offensive line. It almost seems like the team was built for, long duration, routes for the wide receivers, along with, linemen that could block for no more than 2 seconds. So at the end of the day, Hurts, how much did he look better? His first game, he looked fabulous because, not only did, the Saints have a backup quarterback going in, but, there was absolutely no film on Hurts, so, he could run around, he could dance around and look very good, but...
Yeah, and like you said, by no means did he prove that he's ready to be the starter, but then again, he was thrust into, playing in the middle of a bad season with next to no weapons around him, bad play calling. It just wasn't a good situation, so we'll see how things change with the new coaching staff. Hopefully some actual weapons around him, and, in a full season where he knows he's going to be the starter, so he'll be taking first-team reps all season. They'll be building the offense around him and around his strengths.
Right.
Going forward.
It's just it's hard to put two and two together. When Wentz. He doesn't have the most craziest stats out there, but 113 TDs in his career with the Eagles, 5-year career. Versus just 50 interceptions. It's he's throwing well over 2 touchdowns to an interception. You will say that there's 58 fumbles in there. That's a product of he had some issues holding the ball a little too long at times, but also it's a bad offensive line, bad play in the offensive line, and only 29 of those fumbles were lost by him. By the way, I feel like a lot of these stats probably get skewed at the end of the day because he didn't have a good year at all last year, but.
Yeah, people got to remember, everyone wants to say, oh, he sucks. Yeah, he's had his injury problems. He tore his ACL. Now let's, and this is where I want people to, remember what the difference is between injury prone and just, bad things happen. 2017, he was running into the end zone, got his knee crushed upon injury. I was at that game. It was a bad hit to the knees. I don't think the Rams guy needed to even do that. And it probably wouldn't have happened, too, if Lane Johnson doesn't go offside as the previous play. Or, actually, I'm sorry, no, it was that play. But I think Lane Johnson committed a couple penalties that series, though, that cost them yards. So maybe if he doesn't commit those penalties, they get in before he gets hurt. But,
right.
Let's go over his stats here for his career. 2016 as a rookie, these is pretty decent stats as a rookie. 3,782 yards. His leading receiver, I believe, was probably Dorial Green-Beckham, if you could believe that.
Well, I believe his leading receivers were Jordan Matthews and Zach Ertz. But both, I believe, both had 800 to 900 yards. But that's still under that 1,000-yard threshold that you want a receiver tight end to be at.
But he threw for 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Pretty sure that first game we were at, he had 3 touchdowns against the Browns, right?
Right. He didn't throw a single pick, I think, for the first 4 games.
Right. And he was throwing on the money. He looked amazing in that first game. And then moving to 2017, obviously, shortened season due to the injury, but he had 3,296 yards, 33 touchdowns in those 11 games. Or was it? I think it was no. There was 11 wins, so 12 games.
Yeah,
and
they
only-
were 11-2 with him on the field.
Yeah, and 7 interceptions, 101.9 passer rating. I mean, what more can you ask? You know, he was second in the league in touchdown passes, and he missed 3 games. He was only behind Russell Wilson by 3 touchdowns.
You know, one of the big things is when you look at that span, 2017, he's coming back from injury, game 3 against, the Colts. Funny, we speak about the Colts, but, he comes back, 2018 against the Colts. I mean, he threw, 7 picks that year and then, 7 picks the next year. It's like, there's, high touchdown ratio to, the interceptions. And, he kind of has one, bad year. I mean, it was bad all around, year after year, you get this, decimated team, full of injuries. But, I mean, you get one bad year and you give up.
Yeah, I mean, to finish, though, that 2018 season upon his return, 21 touchdowns to 7 picks, 102.2 passer rating, 3,074 yards. And that's with missing the first 2 games and then missing the last, I guess, 3 games. So,
right.
A very short season there, still throwing over 3,000 yards. So that wasn't exactly a bad season. So people like to think it is, but it really wasn't. It's just
mean, it hurts, because it hurts his stock a little bit only because of the Foles coming in and winning them into the playoffs. It almost seemed like it was going to be the second coming for the Super Bowl until Alshon Jeffrey dropped it.
We got it. Yeah, so people got to remember, like, that's not exactly a bad season for what the circumstances. I mean, it got to a point where, it was realized that he had a bad back. He had a tear in his back. And season looked pretty much lost. He had injuries everywhere else as well. So they figured, might as well sit him down so we don't risk further injury. Because the offensive line was decimated that season as well. And, he's running around still on a bum leg. And, he's getting sacked left and right. And that's what led to the tear in his back, most likely. And then, Nick Foles comes in again and almost leads the Eagles to the NFC Championship game again. Again, if it wasn't for Alshon the Snitch Jeffrey. So, I mean, not a bad year, all things considered. And then 2019, again, another season filled with injuries. Not to Carson, though. He finishes with 4,039 yards, 27 TDs, only 7 picks, and a 93.1 passer rating. And for most of those games, passing to, third stringers, practice squad guys, and guys off the street. Hell, I could have been on that team. You could have been on that team.
Right.
How that season was going.
We got to find a Wawa that they keep picking guys up at.
Yeah. Like, he made the playoffs with what Colin Cowherd would say, even though I don't really like the saying because it kind of disrespects the guys, but with lawn chairs and deck furniture. Just...
But it's unexpected. I mean, they're not high-profile players. They're players that came off the street or came off of practice squads. You're not anticipating, for them to, be big deals at the end of the day.
Right. And then this past year was not a good year. He didn't play very well, with everything going on. Finished with 2,620 yards, 16 TDs, 15 picks, passer rating of 72.8. A lot of times he made questionable decisions, held the ball way too long, got sacked quite a bit, even though our offensive line, again, was decimated. We had no weapons, because Howie wanted to pick a quarterback in the second round.
Right.
We picked a receiver in the first round. I think I've spoke to this ad nauseum that, fit what Howie Roseman thought we needed on our offense as opposed to taking the best player available. And this guy gets hurt, twice within a few weeks. I don't want to, I'm not absolving Carson of anything, but, there's a lot of issues surrounding the whole situation. So, to anybody out there who thinks Wentz stinks or sucks or deserves to be let go, needs to rethink that and look at the stats and look at the situation. And also, there's some things that got in his head, very likely. I don't want to, put words in his mouth, but, the statue of Nick Foles and Doug Peterson was a mistake. As nice as it is and great of a moment that was, if you knew Wentz was going to be your long-term guy, he's going to walk by that every day. It's either going to be used as motivation or it's going to piss him off every day. And, it's going to be in his head, I got to get that, otherwise I'm never going to get out of Nick Foles' shadow. and it got in his head.
It just almost seems like, I mean, you take the Patriots for an example. I mean, they bring in a guy like Garoppolo, sits behind Tom Brady for a couple of years. Tom Brady gets hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there, plays some really good football. Especially coming in as a backup. I mean, there's no film on the guy, so it is kind of hard to adjust to, a guy like that. But kind of plays, lights out in a way. And then Tom Brady comes back, and takes that, harshly, and he balls out himself, to make sure that he remains the quarterback of that team, not somebody else. And it kind of almost seems like this kind of takes the opposite effect. Bringing in a guy like Hurts, ruining, kind of. Wentz's stride, and Wentz had a very bright season at the end of the season last year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, a guy, considering every guy, catching balls from him, wasn't even on his team to start the year. That's a pretty big deal for him to be clutch like that. Unfortunately, with the Seattle Seahawks game and getting the concussion and everything like that, but pretty much, I mean, I just don't know where this pick, why this pick is the most surprising thing ever. No, nothing to, Jalen Hurts,
Yeah,
he's now our guy going forward as, what we're going to assume for now. We want him to ball out, be as good. He looked like he could be a bright spot and definitely could possibly be a good starting quarterback. You never know. It could be a franchise quarterback as he develops, but as of right now, this just all doesn't make sense. A week later,
I'll never understand really why this all happened. How Howie and Jeffrey, completely failed, and failed this organization the way they did. You signed the guy to a fat contract, only to draft another quarterback in the second round right after that. Just made no sense. And to speak again about that statue, you found, Nick Foles finally leaves the team. And the keys are basically handed over to Carson Wentz fully. It's your team. Nobody's looking over your. You're not having to look over your shoulder. You're not under a shadow or anything like that. And then you go and drop Jalen Hurts. And then he's like, what the heck? I need weapons. We need guys on defense. I need receivers, linemen. And you're taking another quarterback for what reason? You just signed me to a big contract. Why do I have a second round quarterback in this quarterback room right now, who was a runner-up to the Heisman Trophy, no less.
Right?
Yeah. So I can understand fully why Wentz was pissed off and wanted out of town.
I think on his end, I think it was time. One of the funny thing is actually my boss at work only lived about 2 minutes away from Wentz's PA home. There was rumors of him being traded. And actually, after he did get traded, I was talking with her about it, and actually her husband was already on the prowl, about his home. It was already a sale pending, so it looked like he was ready to get out of here. Overall, we don't want to get too far, into the Wentz, situation, just because, I wish him well. I hope he succeeds in Indy. I no issues here. Love the guy and love what he brought to here. I'm gonna miss that. We got to move on. Knowing this could very well be a mistake for this team. Down the line, but let's just hope it's not.
I believe it will, but I hope Wentz does well too. But hopefully not too well, so we can get that first round pick.
Right.
But
well, you want him to do well in the regular season at least, so that you do get that first round pick.
At least don't get hurt and don't get benched.
Right.
But
more about the Eagles. We got some big news with long time, or not long time, but has been second tenor with the team. But Sean Jackson was released. Granted, the ability to go search for another team. It looks like he plans on wanting to play a little bit. Don't know why. Seems like every year he can't go without injury. Love the guy, love his speed, love his tenacity. The Eagles should have never let him go to begin with, but hey, you got Alshon Jeffrey, who made that incredible pass in the Super Bowl, but later became what was to be the snitch of the football team. he's looks to be getting released as well, along with Malik Jackson, who I thought was going to be a pretty bright spot, to bring in for a win now type situation. I don't think he played horrible, but definitely wasn't worth the money that they gave him. So those three guys, no longer on the team, starting that rebuild, trying to get themselves, within the cap, everything like that. There's a couple other rumors out there, a couple other players. What do you think so far with what's going on?
Yeah, well, you were saying Deshaun Jackson, what did he play, like 3-4 games in 2 years?
Yeah.
I was ecstatic when we brought him back first, but God, that was such a bust of a signing, or a trade rather, and he just could not stay healthy. I mean, we all got excited. I was at that first game he was back against at the time, the Redskins. Sorry if anyone gets offended. Catching 2 long bombs from Wentz, so I thought he was going to ball out all year. And then I guess he got hurt. And then he gets hurt the very next game against the Falcons. And then, briefly came back against the Bears and couldn't go. And then he was out for the rest of the year. Thought maybe he could come back if they won a playoff game, but that wasn't to be. And then next year, I guess he was just off again, on again, injured. Had a couple nice touchdowns, but really nothing too much of note. So at the end of the day, that just was a bust. But don't get me wrong, I love Deshaun. He has one of my favorite. He's part of one of my favorite Eagles memories of all time. With that punt return for a touchdown to complete the comeback against the Giants in 2010.
Yeah, that was a big one. I get the jitters every time I see that video.
Yeah, I love.
It's all Merrill Reese's fault though, because of that great announcer voice. But
yeah, I love rubbing that in our cousin's face up in New York.
Yeah, it's always a nice one.
And then Alshon, good first year. I loved the signing, and I was excited to bring him back the second year. Didn't realize he was playing with a torn rotator cuff that whole first year. But I was super excited to bring him in. Thought that was going to be a great pickup for Carson Wentz, and it turned out to be for a while. He was a good 50-50 guy. I remember that game against the 49ers we were at. He had a really nice catch and run for a touchdown.
Oh, that was nice to see. That catch was actually up against the sideline that we were actually on. So that was pretty nice view.
And then a great catch from Foles in the championship game on a nice bomb where he made a double move on, I think, Terrence Newman, was it? So that was good.
I mean, it actually was really like I'm assuming he didn't expect the ball to go to him at all, so it was kind of like a diversion, but noticed an opening, went down the field and into the end zone, and there it is.
Good pass by Foles, too. And, I watched that highlight on the regular. And then, great touchdown in the Super Bowl on another bomb. Started off the scoring for us. Touchdown scoring. But then after that, just kind of faded away. I was excited we re-signed him to a 4-year deal. Thought, he'd be a great regular part of our offense. Just wasn't really to be. Kind of faded out. Had a couple nice plays here and there, but not much of note. And then started causing problems in the locker room. Quote-unquote, anonymously talking to Josina Anderson or whatever her snitch name is. Ragging on Carson Wentz, calling him like uncoachable, hard to work with, what have you. So
yeah, whatever it takes to get some airtime and a couple extra views out there.
So good riddance. Malik Jackson, again, another guy who got hurt and had his season ended. First game in 2019. And
yeah, that was the first. Actually, believe it or not, one of the funny things about Malik Jackson that I just remember that first season against the Redskins was it almost seemed like the Redskins were just driving the ball down the field constantly. He leaves the game with his injury, and they couldn't do anything from there.
Yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And then I don't really remember if he did much this year. I didn't really hear his name too much.
If you remember that, I forget the game, but he kick the ball with his foot slightly to move the ball back a little bit.
That's about all I remember.
That was always a good one. I think it was could be against the Giants, I believe. I'm trying to remember. I remember it was a black on black kind of night.
Was that against the Giants?
I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always a nice little view. And he's a tough guy. He's probably not a fan favorite, more of a nemesis type player. But it was definitely nice to see that. And I mean, it wasn't bad. He stuffed up the middle, run game, very good run game stopper. But yeah, I mean, for 3 years, $30 million, that wasn't worth it. $10 million a year, it's not worth it. So
yeah, it wasn't. So there's that, and then probably expect to see some more guys get traded very soon. Fully expect Zach Ertz to be traded.
Where do you think he might wind up going if traded?
Hard to tell, but if I had to guess, first off, I don't think his value is going to be very high now. Now that I'm reading more into it, especially with the way Carson Wentz got dealt, he might be a low round pick.
What kind of pick do you think?
Like, I was reading a report of a potential trade to Buffalo for maybe a 6th round pick, which actually kind of surprised me. But, he really kind of crapped the bed this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little difficult.
I think the contract
On his end.
got in his head, so he didn't perform as well as he should, and then, he had his injury issues.
Yeah. I mean, I would hopefully expect. I mean, I'm not expecting a high pick anymore for him. It'd be nice to get that 2nd, 3rd round pick out of him. Because I mean, he's still 30. I mean, when you think about it, Travis Kelce over in Kansas City is 30 as well, and he's just balling out there for the last couple of years, and seems like more years to come. So I think that there's going to still be a lot of talent there with Zach Ertz, and being your safeguard for especially if you're compensating for not having the greatest wide receivers. But I'd like to at least see a 4th come out of him, preferably a 3rd. But I mean, we saw with this Wentz deal, and especially with contract situation, you just never know.
Right, and then I've been hearing that Jason Kelce could end up getting released. I would hope not, because he's one of my favorites. I met him twice. He's very nice. Went out of his way to sign autographs for everybody. I have his signed jersey. Our dad likes to joke around and say he's my twin. So
yeah, you guys do look like a lot alike with the big beard.
Yeah, so it'll be incredibly painful to see him go.
I mean, I don't see how he's a candidate, only because, I mean, yeah, he's up there in age, but he's a steady guy. He's he's never injured. He's never out of a game.
Right, played all season this year.
Yeah, I believe he's now the longest tenor on the team at this point. But he could. I mean, his if you're looking for dimes and pennies, I believe his cap hit and the relief you'd get from his thing is okay, but he's not the first guy you need to look at. I mean, he doesn't have such a huge contract that it's overbearing. You can get under the cap with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I would really want to keep him to anchor that offensive line. So
right, at least for the short term,
especially with how durable he is. He gets dinged up every now and then, but he doesn't. He rarely ever sits out.
I mean, you also got to think about possible retirement. Considering he's been kind of talking about that the last 2 years.
And that's always a thought every year too. So I'd much rather see him retire than go to another team.
But it really is hard to look at this team right now and say, what assets do you have? You have guys like Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, but these two guys just signed massive contracts to the team that they're starting this year. How can you get rid of that? I don't think you can get rid of that.
I don't think it'll work very well on the cap. I've
even heard some things about Darius Slay too. What sense does that make?
Yeah, especially after 1 year after picking him up, after using a 3rd round pick, I would not want to get rid of him. I'd want to get another guy to line up across from him to really solidify the secondary.
Right.
What I'm hoping, well, actually not hoping for, I don't even know what to say here. It's just like, I hope they can field a team next year.
Right. I mean, they will. I mean, you might see quite a bit of guys, no longer on this team.
One guy I can maybe think about, trading. I just don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on the cap. Might not be very good. Is Fletcher Cox? While he still has some value, because he's probably only got another 2 to 3 years left in him, if I had to guess. And you might want to try to get something out of him now while he still has some value. Than later on when he's beat up a little bit more. And that would probably get us down under the cap some more. I don't know what kind of dead money we'd be looking at.
I would probably assume his dead cap is probably relatively high. I'm assuming they'd save a little bit of cap space. Here, right now, looking at spottrack.com/NFL/Philadelphia Eagles. His cap hit coming up for 2021 is $23.8 million. The dead cap on that's going to be just a little over 21 million. So, they got a lot of high-priced guys coming up 2021. The bells ringing right now, and they better open up the checkbook at this point.
Well, they don't really have a checkbook, or they got a negative balance right now, so I don't know what they're going to be able to do.
Right.
And then other reports, getting back to Wentz a little bit. We won't speak much of this, but, there were some reports of Wentz and Peterson not having talked for 8 to 9 weeks during this past season. What do you make of that?
I mean, I've heard, there's tons of, different, rumors out there. You don't even know what's real at this point because, whatever it takes to get, a little bit of viewership, a little bit of extra, credibility, even though a lot of these, analysts are lacking that. But, I mean, I don't know how much of that's true. Quarterback still has to communicate with his coach, in some sort of way. I mean, there's rumors out there that it was as small as just text messages, versus, Super Bowl year, the first year, they're probably having dinner with one another, calling each other, FaceTiming each other, with each other a lot. I would assume, there's rumors out there that, Doug Peterson wanted to move forward with Jalen Hurts. I don't see that. I don't think that's true. I do believe he wanted to, go forward with, Carson Wentz, and that could have been the reason why they decided to, oust him. There's just no way there was no communication.
Yeah, I just don't see how
personally
you can
for me
have an effective football team. I mean, granted, they weren't that effective, but really have an effective game plan where your quarterback and coach aren't talking, so I just don't buy that.
Yeah, I'm not buying a lot of these rumors. I mean, unless they're, meaningful, with there's purpose to it. I could say that, he had a fist fight with one player, in the middle of a practice one day. And, people are going to be like, oh, my God. And Twitter's just going to, go about its day with that, and it doesn't matter at that point. I mean, the guy, he kept his silence. Silence speaks, louder than words in some cases. And, I mean, some people didn't like that. Some people called him a coward because of that. But, I mean, what could you do? You were in a position where you're the backup. You're supposed to be the starter, the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they took that away from him.
Yeah, just utterly ridiculous. But, let's move on to some other news here. We had a local product from Philadelphia and Bristol, PA. Pat Sabatini, mixed martial arts fighter, going to call up to the UFC with 6 days' notice to fight on UFC Fight Night against Rafael Alves. What do you think about Pat? We've seen him fight in the past. We've kind of known him a little bit, in our high school days and our wrestling days.
Yeah, he's a local product. I mean, more so you than me. With wrestling, you were saying earlier that he was, one of the first guys, at his high school to, get that 100 win mark, which is a big deal in, high school wrestling. he was a big name, when we're talking, at wrestling practice and everything like that. One of the big things I just remember was we were actually going to watch, a fight in Wildwood at the convention center in Wildwood, New Jersey, and we were actually going for a buddy of ours at a former, employment that, Tom and myself did work for together. He Pat Sabatini was actually fighting that night as well. He was the main event of that night, and I just remember
we actually didn't even expect him to be there. I just remember we got there and he came up to us like, "Hey Tom, what are you doing here?" And we told him who we were coming to see, but we were pretty ecstatic. We got to see him fight because we never gotten a chance before.
Right, and to see that it was like over a minute that fight lasted, it beats me because I just remember the fight starts and then the fight ends with a submission, and it was crazy. I mean, the speed and just watching this guy fight, especially in the pros. He's a big guy right now in CFFC. He's got a pretty nice record at 13-3 right now.
Current featherweight champion.
Yeah. Just to watch him fight is just incredible. Just how technical and just how smart, this guy is. It's unreal. You watch, fights left and right. You watch just how crazy, some guys can fight and just how smart some people can fight. But I'm not, throwing anything out there, but I've never seen somebody fight so smart like he has.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see Pat in the UFC for the longest time. I thought he deserved it a long time ago, so I'm just finally glad he got the call. But
yeah, unfortunately, we missed out. Unfortunately, the opponent Alves, missed weight by 11.5 pounds, which is a
ridiculous,
big bummer,
unprofessional in my opinion.
Exactly. I think the last time somebody missed weight on a Pat Sabatini fight, it didn't go well.
Yeah, typically, if you only miss weight by a few pounds, then, they might come to a negotiation where maybe, some of the purse of the guy who missed weight would go to the other guy who made weight. But, at this point, 11.5 pounds is quite the discrepancy, so you couldn't, have that fight because it would be incredibly unfair to Pat. But either way, I think Pat would have kicked the crap out of him.
There was especially, watching his interview and everything like that, there was a big focus with him. And that's also, difficult too, because, somebody like Alves was probably, not expecting, a call up from, Pat Sabatini 6 days notice. How are you supposed to be able to, fight somebody that you know nothing about?
Right.
You've been training for, one fighter, and now you got to, on the fly kind of, train for another. So yeah, I think it's a product of being scared, and preparedness wasn't there. I just hope that he finally gets his chance in the UFC.
Yeah, I'll never understand how you have a full camp and you can't make weight or even be close to it, whereas Pat comes in on 6 days' notice and has made weight no problem.
Exactly.
It just speaks to his preparedness and everything else. The guy's tough as nails. Saw him dislocate his arm, pretty badly. But in a fight against,
he still tried to fight that match though.
Oh yeah,
sure.
he did not quit. He was forced into a technical submission. It was against James Gonzalez, where he lost the featherweight title, and it was a technical submission because he didn't quit, and just speaks how tough as nails he is, and then to come back not very much later and win that title back. I guess it was vacated for some reason. Just speaks volumes on the kind of fighter he is. So again, me too. I hope we see him in the UFC real soon. I think I read something that he has a 3-fight deal. I'm not 100% on that, but let's hope that's the case.
Yeah,
so,
hopefully, definitely.
I would definitely.
What's funny is in his amateur time, the guy that we actually went to go see at Wildwood, New Jersey, fight his first fight. He actually lost to this opponent, Jordan Steiner. But it looks like here, Pat Sabatini fought him in his fourth match. And it looks like he beat him with an armbar in 43 seconds. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'd be pretty dang cool to hear Bruce Buffer call out his name before a fight in UFC, so I look forward to that. And, hopefully, his career goes well. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be be able to play with him in a UFC video game.
Right. I mean, Dana White, if you hear this, sign this guy.
Keep
It's going to be worth your while.
So, next thing, I guess, got a little bit of breaking news. Sixers pull out the victory today against the Toronto Raptors, 109-102.
Okay. Korkmaz, with 19 points. Look at that.
16 of those were in the first quarter, though. So where was he the last 3?
Right. Looks like Tobias Harris, led the team with 23 points.
He got an All-Star snub, by the way. I mean, as happy as I am for Simmons to make the All-Star game, I think Tobias earned it a little bit more than Ben Simmons did.
It's a popularity contest at this point.
That's all it is, and quite frankly, this season it was not an All-Star game was not needed.
Yeah, exactly.
But we've talked about that already. And Embiid had 15, Simmons had 15, and Danny Green and Shake both had 11. Looked like it was an ugly win. They started off nice, but I guess kind of faded off. But it's good. Nice. Always nice to beat the Raptors. Finally, a road win against them. Although technically, this isn't a win in Toronto because Toronto's having to play in Tampa all season because of COVID.
Right.
So, so that makes them 3-1 since our last podcast. Embiid had a huge game against the Bulls, 50 points for a huge career high. So that was great to see. Just further cements his MVP season. And then
I mean, there's guys trying to say Jokic is a better candidate. I beg to differ. Joel Embiid is your top candidate right now.
Yeah, there's nobody in the NBA right now that means more to their team than Joel Embiid. You take Embiid out, you got problems. But you put him back in the lineup. I think they've won just about every game, or only lost a few with him in the lineup. So,
right, I think there's only 4 losses there that without him in the game.
So, for how much he means to the team versus Jokic or LeBron or something like that, I think that speaks volumes on his MVP status this season.
Yeah.
So, did you watch that debacle in Lake Tahoe on Sunday?
I felt like giving up just to see Carter Hart
Get your Carter Hart here.
6 goals in 2 periods is just not good goaltending right there.
Like 3, maybe 4 of those are like weak. Now, granted, I'll give them a little benefit of the doubt. They were playing with most of the Phantom guys or their taxi squad guys because of COVID issues. You still have most of your forwards out. I think the only player they got back for that game was Sanheim.
Right.
But it's just I thought we were playing well in that first period. Could maybe stay with them a little bit, but then it just got away from us in that second period. Pasternak again with another hat trick against us.
Yeah, he's just killing us. I mean, I don't even have any words right now for just how bad this Boston Bruins team has just killed us this year, and it just seems like a product of Pasternak. That's something that they were missing last year against us.
Yeah.
That element, to their game is pretty much killing us right now.
Now, again, it doesn't help, too, again, defensively, that we haven't been playing well outside of Provorov, so that probably led to 3 of those other goals. That
and having to, even having to, take on, such a huge role like Provorov has, I mean, that's going to come with its struggles and, issues and mistakes. I mean, the amount of minutes that he's on the ice, and the load that he has to take on, kind of compensating for the lack of a defense that this team has right now.
Right. So there's that. So, and I will say, it is nice to have Moose still coming in there. He only gave up 1 goal late in the game. So it is really nice to have that backup plan. You might even want to start thinking about starting him just a little bit more. Give Carter Hart a little bit of a break and kind of
right.
Maybe look at what Moose is doing and see how he can adjust and start playing a little bit better.
Right. Yeah.
Get his mind fresh.
Give him a little bit of a break.
And then how about JVR scoring his 500th career? Was that goal or point?
I believe that's just the point.
Yeah, but it speaks for crazy how well he's been doing this year. A lot of people wanted to write him off, say go to Seattle, whatever. And man's just been killing it this year. From his office right in front of the net, getting a lot of deflected pucks into the net. Been playing great this season. I think he leads the Flyers to goals this year.
Yeah, he's up there in the league too right now.
Makes me having 2 of his jerseys feel better.
Right. I mean, I was another guy that was writing him off. At this point, he just looked soft. Since coming back to the Flyers, it's absolutely soft. But now it looks like he's picking up his game a little bit, and let's see some good hockey out of him.
He's always been my favorite pigeon. Yeah.
Wrong sport.
It works.
It always works.
And some other news. Mark Friedman, the Flyers placed him on waivers today. Probably just to try to get him back down at the taxi squad.
I don't think anybody's going to pick him up. You don't have any worry for that.
Yeah, I don't have any worries on that. And I can understand why. I mean, he's only played 4 games this year and has no points. He's -2. So, got to get better defensively. Although I will say this past game, he played out of position, was playing winger because of how many forwards we were missing.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a win now, looking like a win now type of hockey team right now. They got a couple guys, that's starting to, run out of, gas in the tank. I mean, you got Giroux, you got Voracek, some of these older, leaders on this team, they're coming to the end of their days as a Flyer. I mean, yeah, they could probably be on the team for another 2-3 years, but, aside from that, this is becoming a win now team. What do you think in terms of the, early future, before trade deadline, any players, you might see them trade for?
Well, one potential trade I read about, I mean, granted, I think this is just writers, coming up with ideas. I think he is on the block or is asking for a trade, but this is just
sort of getting into the spirit for the trade deadline.
Just a little speculation at this point, but I really like the idea. Is trading with the Nashville Predators for defenseman Matthias Ekholm. It's an article, 2 articles I read, one by Charlie O'Connor and Adam Vingan of The Athletic, and another one by Eamon615 on SB Nation. Potential trade ideas, first one, which, I might be okay with, would be Eric Gustafson, Morgan Frost, a 2022 first rounder, and a 2021 conditional second for Ekholm. Another option, I'm not a big fan of this one because I don't want to lose these guys, but Scott Lawton, Nolan Patrick, and a 2021 second for Ekholm. Again, I would go with that one. And another one which I would probably be okay with just because of the money, maybe trading Ghost in a 2022 first and a 2021 conditional second for Ekholm. I think it would solidify our defense, give us that piece we've been missing when Matt Niskanen decided to retire. Compare him nicely with Provy.
So you're getting a bigger body there as well.
In 2021 so far, he's got 3 points, 3 assists. He's -1, so looking all right so far. But for his career, in 550 games, guy's got 45 goals, 154 assists for 199 points. Guy's only 1 point shy of 200, and he's got a plus-minus of 70. So I think that would really help us out for the stretch run getting into the playoffs. I really hope we could try to pull the trigger on that if that is, on the table.
Yeah, a nice little fresh start for him, coming into a win-now type team, whereas, Nashville's kind of going on the down at this point.
Right. Nashville isn't doing much, so I'm thinking they want to try to start building for the future.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really right now kind of on the block at the moment.
I did read another one, but I highly, highly, highly doubt this even happens. Just pure speculation, but, you always hear Jack Eichel's name thrown out there.
Yeah.
He wants out of Buffalo. I think he's sick of losing because Buffalo still stinks. But
yeah, even with, the big, signing that they had, too, this year.
Was that Hughes?
No, not Hughes. Taylor
Hall, that's right.
Taylor Hall, yeah, that's right.
So
I was blanking on his name there for a quick second.
But Jack Eichel, that would take a heck of a haul to get him, and that would strap. That would really hurt our cap there. So I don't foresee that happening. And
he's a young guy.
It really would be a lateral move because I think Konechny's almost on the same level as he. So you're basically trading a 24 goal scorer for a 25 goal scorer. So
right.
Other than that, I don't really foresee many other names out there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see as they come, get closer to the trade deadline, and we'll see how this Flyers hockey team looks, towards that point. I mean, we'll all predict that they'll be at least, top 3 in the division, capable of making the playoffs.
Yeah. And then, in other news, we're hearing, the Flyers, Sixers, and Phillies have put in a request to the city of Philadelphia to start letting fans back in. So maybe, slowly but surely we'll be able to get back in there. Hopefully we can get our COVID test or COVID vaccine soon, so that'll make it easier. Because I'm itching to get back into a Flyers game.
We'll say, no politics aside, you got the mayor there that's, not too keen on, these types of things, and has had some pretty, worse, restrictions on the city of Philadelphia over, us in Bucks County and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, obviously safety first, but at the same vein, too, it's like if we got a good amount of people with the vaccine, we can prove we got the vaccine, wear masks, I think you can let a few people in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a crazy amount, doesn't have to be full capacity, but, let some people in so some of the fan noise can be real fan noise and not the piped-in nonsense.
Right.
And quite honestly, that piped-in stuff isn't really realistic for, Flyers games, you know what I mean? If it was real fan noise, you'd be hearing, "Ref, you suck! Ref, you suck!" Or you'd be getting some a-hole chants in there, things like that. So, I mean, that would be funny if they pipe that in.
Yeah, it would be nice to, kind of get back to our roots here a little bit. I mean that's a part of the game. Big part of the game is the fans, and missing that. There's a couple games that could be won that if the fans are there could definitely be some wins. There, no matter where you are, Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, Sixers, doesn't matter.
And I guess to wrap things up, Phillies are down in all clear water. Full team started practicing today. Nice to see Harper down there. Looks like he chopped off the lettuce.
They're in Clearwater.
Clearwater. I like that shirt. I got to get that shirt.
Yeah, I'd love to get that shirt as well.
Seeing Reese swinging the ball pretty nicely. I think he'll be ready for opening day. Go figure. As soon as we re-sign Real Muto, he fractures his thumb. But luckily we're here and he'll be ready for opening day. But it's just like go figure.
Yeah, it's the luck involved. But I mean, you got that big signing. Real Muto. It's good to keep him for the next 5 years. He's gonna be swinging a nice, good bat, and I mean, as catcher, they decay pretty quickly, but you'll be able to see him in other spots. Maybe some designated hitter, that's coming in soon. DD, we're excited to have you back for another 2 years. We'll continue the fight and fills here. You got Harper, he's coming on his third year out of his $330 million contract. It's always good to see, his leadership and him, bringing something new to the table every year. I love that, Clearwater, T-shirt. It looks like he's swinging in a Fanatic bat right now. So what do you think of this team? I know one of the big things that's coming out right now is, making moves to win now. Are they at that point to win now? Or at least contend?
I think they can at least contend in the wild card. I'm not 100% on the NL East as of yet. I still think pitching-wise, I'm still suspect on that. I feel like we should have tried to add another starter.
Right.
I think bullpen-wise, we signed a couple guys like Archie Bradley.
The bearded baron.
To shore that up. We'll see how it rolls, because it's just been a weakness for us the last couple of years.
I guarantee we made the playoffs last year if your bullpen wasn't so
God, if we only
horrible.
If they didn't blow at least 3 leads, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's so many times.
I just remember at the end there, you have Gabe Kapler that looked like he was about ready to make the playoffs over the Phillies.
Yeah, so, if we could stop blowing some leads, I think our offense will be all right. And I think we'll have at least a shot at a wild card, so we'll see about that.
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple guys here, potentially looking at new contracts. You know, you got, McCutchen. Yeah, he came off that ACL tear, and he's, didn't look the greatest. ACL tear, yeah. Coming off that, prior year, last year he didn't look the greatest. He, had a low, average and everything like that. But, obviously with those type of injuries, it could take a full year, to really become yourself, after healing from it. But, he's, on the last year of his deal with the Phillies, so guarantee he's going to be looking to, get the bat, going pretty well so that, he looks up for, another maybe, year or two contract, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else, just to get a couple extra dollars, before retirement. I mean,
hope Kutch stays here, but part of me thinks he'll probably, maybe end up in Pittsburgh to end his career because he loves that city. His son's name is Steele.
I mean, it's good. I love the guy. I think he was a great signing for this team. I think he brought, that nice veteran presence. Still to this day, it's good veteran presence, and hopefully we can keep him for the end. I mean, you got guys like Reese Hoskins that are coming back. Hopefully he can get the bat going. Once again. I mean, obviously we know he's a power hitter. He swings for the home runs and can get you a lot of walks. But hopefully that bat can get going again and some good confidence out of him.
Yeah, I really hope we can get him back. I remember before we got Harper on this team, he was going neck for neck with Harper in the home run derby.
Right.
He was hitting them like crazy. It just seems like he kind of froze up the last couple of years, so I'm hoping he gets back to form here.
Yeah, hopefully he can get that 3-4 punch there.
Yeah, so where do you think Kangaroo's going to end up playing this year? Do you think he'll be second? Or not second, center field?
I would actually. I mean, that was the most tense position for him. I know it's you had to work the hardest in that position versus some of the other, spots on the infield. But center field, I think, preferably would be the best spot to put him. Obviously, you're going to keep McCutchen in left field. Less taxing on his body. You got Harper. A sure thing for the right field. You're still missing that center fielder. I mean, you got to put Kingery's contract to work. Get him back there. Maybe that'll get his mind going a little bit more. Maybe he'll, get back to Scotty Jetpacks.
Yeah, because I don't see him playing the infield because, you're going to have Hoskins over at first, probably Segura on second, Gregorius on third, and Alec Bohm on third. So
right, and I mean, you got Alec Bohm. It's going to be.
I think he'll take another big step this year too. And
that was an incredible pick.
Yeah.
I will say.
He looks like a twin brother of Harper.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this team is at least deserving of a playoff berth. It's been forever since we got some Phillies playoffs, but
I want to say it was 2012 was our last year when they won like 102 games, but then lost in the wild card round to the Cardinals, where
right
Howard I think tore his Achilles.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean you got that's 8 years that you're missing out on playoffs. I mean I think they're pretty much up there in a playoff drought now in the MLB. So hopefully we can get this team up and rolling. You got quite a couple guys in their prime. Let's, not waste those primes.
What I will say, though, even though we haven't won the World Series since 2008, we've at least won the World Series, before, we've won the World Series one more, the most recently since the Mets, at least.
Right, yeah.
I mean, Nats just won one, but.
Yeah. It's crazy that, Bryce Harper did miss, a World Series by 1 year, but. I'm glad he's on our team.
No telling that they would have been there with him there. Things could have been changed. Could have been a different dynamic, but you never know.
That's true.
But I am happy to have him here. Big time player. Gives us a little more notoriety as well.
Yeah, I mean he brings a good presence to this team. Even if it's a bad team, his presence is bringing fans in the stands. I mean not right now with COVID, but I love watching baseball. Bryce Harper brings that appeal. I mean, there's a couple years there where, Phillies baseball was not attractive.
Oh, yeah, it was getting boring.
When your best players scratch and grab and scratch, Adubel Herrera. That's his nickname.
That's what
my girlfriend my girlfriend and Tommy both took me to a Phillies game for my birthday a couple years ago, and I actually got a ball thrown to me by Herrera. But I mean, the whole time sitting there in the outfield, he was just scratching, his downstairs, and grabbing, his rear end and reverse. So it was a interesting scene. But
let me ask.
yeah,
Speaking of him,
considering he's your considering a couple years ago he was your best player.
Speaking of him, do you think he deserves a second chance? We're talking about
I
possibly bringing him back.
I believe everybody deserves a second chance. I mean, there's nothing criminally with him.
Well, he wasn't charged.
Nothing was charged. I mean, there's always some hush-hush situations there, but, in the eyes of the law, he did nothing. So, at the end of the day, you have to give him, a second chance. I'm a guy that, everybody deserves a second chance.
Well, I'm just gonna say me, and I know you too, and most guys would not condone ever touching a woman like that ever, never hitting a woman in under any circumstances. So, if he did that, shame on him. But I know he went to therapy for his anger management. Hopefully he's learned a lesson. That should never ever happen. Shouldn't have happened the first time, but should never happen again. Shouldn't even come close to happening again. But
I mean, you see those mistakes all the time. These guys are young. Don't want to use the word stupid. Nobody's stupid, but you're young, naive. You don't really understand things. I mean, look, quite a couple years ago, you had Adrian Peterson with the switch. With his son. Those are products of not really understanding parenthood and things, do's and don'ts that you don't exactly understand or you learn. There's a part of learning and adapting and realizing your faults and your wrongs and make yourself a better person out of it.
Yeah, and then, if guys like Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill, can get second chances, Mike Vick, and he did something far, far, far worse, can all get second chances, as long as they atone. I mean, granted, I don't know too much about Kareem and Tyreek if they've really atoned, but
yeah, it's not like you're like a Keep Talib or Plexico Burris and you're shooting yourself.
Or, but, I couldn't go like Vic, as long as you've made up for it, atoned for it, and learned a lesson, it's a job, it's what you're good at, it's what, it's your career. I guess everyone deserves a second chance as long as you've learned your lesson.
I mean, unfortunately, he's still under contract with the team. They got to try to see what they can get out of him. I feel like him being removed from the team, I mean, he could be a part of the team. That would, if anything, that would become your center fielder at this point because that's, his primary spot. But I don't see him making a team. I think it's, worthwhile to at least see where he is baseball-wise. But I don't see him making a team. I think this team is far removed from him being on it. But you never know.
We shall see. Well, I mean, we'll get wrapping up here. What are you drinking, by the way?
Just sticking with the Coors Light. I got a couple Sam Adams in the refrigerator. I might attack a little later, but one of the big things, coming up this week, you'll see a blog post. Tommy's actually going to be at the helm of the blog post. Some more feeling on being a week removed from the Carson Wentz news and try to get that personal feeling out of there and try to figure out what really went wrong there. And at some point this week we'll have another post. I'll post something. I want to get something out about the Phillies, what's going on right now, current situation out there in Clearwater. And that'll be to wrap up the week. If you guys want to, come in and chat with us, we could certainly bring you on. If you want to, tweet, you want to talk to us anyway, you can message us, DM us. At any point, we're willing to talk. We're willing to, have some fun here.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to reach me, I'm at my Instagram is TPC1122_OF1, and that's for Out for One. Our Out for One Sports podcast is simply just at Out for One Sports.
With the number one.
With the number one. Our Twitter handle, is Out for One Sports. You know, my Twitter handle is at TomCarroll_OF1. And you know, what are your handles?
Mine is actually for both Instagram and Twitter. It's Ant, short for Anthony, so Ant Carroll _. And that'll be for both Instagram and Twitter.
Nice. And you know, I just finished up a nice yards Big Hazy 13. That was my last one. You know, I just took a nice trip with my lovely girlfriend to Newtown Brewing Company. They had some nice brews there, so if you're ever in that area, give it a try. I had some nice blood orange milkshake beers in my fridge right now too that, you know, I tried and they're very delicious. And they had a nice double IPA called Utah Give Me Two. You know, I guess I understand why they call it Utah Give Me Two, if you know what I mean. So, you know, give it a try if you're out there.
I got some quick breaking news before we go. It looks like fans will be allowed in the stands starting March 1st.
Oh, wow. And what are the we have a limit on them?
No word exactly on the number, you know, the crowd-wise, but it's not going to be a large number.
Who's that per?
It's actually I was scrolling through Facebook and found on 92.5 XTU a little article there that fans will be allowed in the stands effective March 1st, but there's not a full count of the capacity for that. So probably assuming the suggestion will probably be that 5,000 range as requested.
Well, we'll certainly find out. My guess is that tickets are going to be outrageously high if they're being sold, probably on StubHub because there's so little of them. Probably go to season ticket holders first, understandably. So, if I had to guess, they're probably going to prefer that you have your COVID vaccine by then. And unfortunately for me, I'm really, one of the last priorities.
Same.
The rest of our family, me and Anthony are the most healthiest people in our family, whereas everybody else in our family has some sort of medical condition that get where they get it first. And it's just like, damn, why are we so healthy, yo?
Right. I mean, nothing to them, sucks,
nothing against them. I'm glad, they can get it so they aren't at risk. But it's like, man, give me some of that diabetes,
Yeah.
Let me get that shot so I could stop worrying out there, I guess maybe I should take up smoking because that gets you in the first phase.
Yeah, that'll get you in before, the elders over 65.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, but it is what it is. Hopefully I can get it soon so I can get to some sort of semblance of real life again.
Right.
So, alrighty. I will,
we'll end you there.
Here.
If you have any suggestions, you want to hear, any specific topics, or you want to join in with us, just give us a holler and we'll bring you on. We'll definitely talk to you guys. Thank you for listening to us.
This has been the Out for One podcast. I'm Tom.
And I'm Anthony.
Kawhi's not really here. And everyone have a good night.
All right.
This has been the Out for One podcast with Tom and Anthony.